How many times have your characters been drinking in a tavern, inn, or a bar, or any similar establishment? Usually it is something that is just happening in the background with no mechanical importance. But in GURPS you can play out drinking mechanically. GURPS basic set has drinking and intoxication rules on pages 439 and 440. If you are using these rules, you have to keep track of how many drinks you consume each hour. What is a drink? A drink is a full mug of beer, that's 12 ounces, a full glass of wine, that's 4 or 5 ounces, or a shot of spirits, that's 1.5 ounce. At the end of any hour during which you consume no more than strength divided by 4 drinks, you have to roll against the higher of your health or carousing skill. This roll is penalized for every drink over this threshold of strength divided by 4 that you had this hour, and you get a -2 penalty on an empty stomach. On the other hand, you get a +1 bonus if you have recently eaten. The alcohol tolerance perk gives you a +2 bonus, and the alcohol intolerance quirk gives you a -2 penalty. And this is where I have to introduce you to the sobriety scale. The sobriety scale is as follows. The first stage is sober, you have no penalties and no bonuses. Then you are tipsy. You are at -1 to dexterity and intelligence and -2 to self-control rolls, except for those to resist cowardice. Also, if you have shyness, reduce it by 1 level. The next step is drunk. You are at -2 to dexterity and intelligence and -4 to self-control rolls, except for those to resist cowardice. And if you have shyness, reduce it by 2 levels. The next step is unconsciousness, also known as drunken stupor. And the final step is coma, where you can basically die if you do not receive any medical help. If you fail your drinking roll, that is health or carousing if you remember, you go down 1 step on the sobriety scale. If you critically fail, you drop 2 levels instead. If penalties from extra drinks or empty stomach reduce your roll to 2 or less, then a critical failure drops you 3 levels. So the critical failure is the only way to drop into a coma from drinking, because you cannot drink if you are unconscious. Also, there are some additional effects. When you become drunk, you have to make an additional health +4 roll. On a failure, you are also hallucinating. Also, if you are drunk and a failed health or carousing roll would indicate that you go unconscious or drop into a coma, you have to make another unmodified health roll. On a success, you vomit up the alcohol instead of passing out. Treat this as retching. On a critical failure, you pass out and then retch. Treat this as choking. So this is how you go down the sobriety scale. How do you go up? First, you have to stop drinking, obviously. Then, after half as many hours as the total number of drinks you consumed, roll against health. On a success, you move 1 step towards sobriety, and you have to roll again until you become sober each time this time interval passes. Obviously, if you are in a coma, you cannot sober up without medical help. And when you stop drinking, you know what happens. If you are tipsy or worse, you must roll against health when you stop drinking, at -2 if you are drunk or -4 if you are unconscious. On a failure, you suffer a hangover. The hangover starts 1d hours after you stop drinking or upon awakening if you fell asleep or passed out, and it lasts for a margin of failure hours. And during this time, you suffer from moderate pain and acquire a low pain threshold, or lose high pain threshold if you have it. And that's basically it. There are some other traits that are related to drinking. First, I already mentioned the alcohol tolerance perk. It gives you a +2 bonus to all alcohol-related rolls. The alcohol intolerance quirk imposes a -2 penalty on all of them. The no hangovers perk makes you immune to hangovers. The horrible hangovers quirk doubles all the penalties from hangovers and make hangovers last 3 hours longer. That's horrible. The alcoholism disadvantage is actually quite crippling. It not only affects your drinking rolls but also introduces the addiction rules. So it's basically treating alcohol as a drug. Be very careful when you put this disadvantage on your character sheet. It really is a crippling disadvantage and it's very difficult to get rid of. GURPS Power-Ups 2 perks has the Drunken Fighting perk that reverses your dexterity penalties from being tipsy or drunk in combat. You still take IQ penalties and self-control penalties. And GURPS Psionic Powers has the Ecstatic Psi perk that reverses your intelligence penalties, turning them into a bonus from being drunk for the purpose of manifesting psionic powers. So that's interesting in my opinion. And that's it. As you can see, you can play out drinking mechanically, but it's absolutely fine if you do not. You just have an option. So thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.